Hey, it's really warm today. Anyway, today I want to talk about Barry Harris. Barry Harris being a pianist. He knows a lot about music theory. And he, in the 80s and 90s, late 80s and early 90s, went to The Hague in Germany and gave a lot of classes.
Then it goes to C minor. And you got to tell me how many keys is a C minor seventh in?
All of these were recorded by a guy called Longson, and a lot of them are on YouTube, and I've been watching them all. He's got some great videos, some of them talking about different standards, different tunes, and like what you can play on top of them, how to solo over them. You know, he rips into some of the students a bit.
That's wrong.
Like, there's a great video where he's like telling this drummer not to click on 4 and saying how he's going to commit suicide if he does.
Okay, hold it. There is one phrase I hate, and that's what the drummer is doing, that Philly Joe thing on the 4th beat. I detest it. I become a raving maniac when I hear it. You know, they say I'm suicidal.
Whatever. But anyway, there's a really great video on there, and Barry said something really interesting. He said that he was speaking to Monk.
It's jungle out there.
No, not that Monk. The Thelonious Monk, the jazz pianist and jazz legend and composer. So apparently Thelonious Monk said to him that a half diminished chord is simply a minor chord with a 6 in the bass. Seems fair enough, right? I mean, kind of. Anyway, so this got me thinking. In jazz, we often what's known as a 2-7-5-7-1, a 2-5-1. You know, it's sort of a jazz cadence, basically. You know, you have your plagal cadence, your perfect authentic cadence, your imperfect authentic cadence, your half cadence, your interrupted cadence, and then you've got your jazz cadence. And often, it's a 2 half diminished 7th, 5-7-1. Sometimes it's a 4-7-5-7-1. That works too. Sometimes it's just a 2-7-5-7-1, or usually 2 minor 7 at least. Whereas in some cases, it's a 2 half diminished 7. So if we're in the key of B flat, you know, your 2 is C minor, so you'd have C, E flat, G flat, and B flat. Now, what I find really interesting about this is, where did that flat 6th come from in the key? Where did G flat come from? What is it doing here? You may come at me with, well, it's just the harmonic major scale, which is a major scale but with a flattened 6th. Now, fair enough, you got me. Maybe it's just in harmonic major.
Yeah, like a bit.
I don't think that's the end of the story, though. I think there's more to it. I really do. Now, I want you to take a dip with me in the murky waters of negative harmony, also known as Jacob Collierism, the fastest growing religion in the UK. Now, I love Jacob Collier a lot, and when I started hearing him talk about negative harmony, it really got my creative juices going, and I really started to weave that into my music as much as I possibly could. So, let's talk about what would happen if we're in B flat major. Okay, so you're doing a B flat major chord. You've got B flat, you've got D, you've got F. So instead of going up a major third from B flat up to D, you go down a major third, and down a major third will give you G flat. Then you go down a minor third, instead of going up a minor third, up from D to F, instead you go down, and down from G flat, down a minor third is E flat. Now, you've got E flat minor. Well, hey! So E flat minor, you could think about it in this sort of negative Collier space as a B flat major, but the negative version of it. So a negative B flat major. So a negative B flat major is E flat minor. There's a lot of really interesting harmonic potential here. Like the idea that instead of heading back to the home key, you could head to the minor 4. You know, I think that's really interesting and a really good way to maybe then branch out and maybe modulate us away from there. You know, you're no longer in B flat major, now you're in E flat minor. And from E flat minor, you can get to loads of other crazy keys. You could modulate, I mean, you could even get to B major from there fairly easy. You've already got the F sharp there. There's loads of interesting things you could do. And the A sharp, yeah, you basically got an, Jesus, I'm already thinking about composing my next piece using this stuff. Anyway, If we think about the C half diminished as actually being E flat minor, but with a sixth in the bass, that's really interesting. Because maybe it is simply a -1. So we're going 1, 5, 1. -1, 5, 7, 1. There's also some really interesting things here in terms of lines. Music is all lines. It's lines in the air that travel to your ears, and it's lines on the page that traverse the harmonic plane, as it were. So in an E flat minor 6 chord, you can make the E flat go down to the D, and the G flat rise to the G, or even go down to the F. The B flat could go up to the B, or the C could go to the B. There's plenty of ways to get the lines in there, which is really interesting. And I kind of like thinking about it as a minor 4, as opposed to a 2 half diminished. I think it's really interesting because the idea of using negative harmony to sort of imply you're at home, but it's not quite right. You can really, the birds are really going at it outside my shed today. They really just don't like me creating content for you guys. So we can think of it as we've returned home, but it's a negative version of home. We're not quite actually home yet. So if we were in the key of B flat again, we hit E flat minor 6 with the 6 in the bass. It's like, that's a really weird chord. It's a really unstable chord. It's like more unstable than if you were to just do a 2-7 or a 4-7. So it gives you this great sense of instability by invoking the negative harmony of the home key. And so we get through there back to 1. You know, without actually fully getting into the key of the dominant, you know, it wouldn't be a C7, C dominant 7, then F7, and then B flat, you know, because then it's like, okay, we're cycling through a lot of keys at that point, and it sounds like it's going to end at F more than it is at B flat. What it is it's creating a predominant function, so not a fully dominant function. I think that's really interesting. And I learned all that from Barry Harris teaching some kids how to play chords. He says that, you know, he said that Monk said that there's no such thing as a half diminished chord. It's simply just a minor chord with a 6 in the bass. Thanks for watching. This was a bit of a rambly video about scales and jazz and Barry Harris. I love Barry Harris. I love everything he says. Apart from when he's like, I don't know, ragging on the drummer a bit too much. I don't know.
That's wrong.
Anyway, I think it's really interesting to hear people like him talk about music theory in a really enlightened and really, you know, thoughtful way. And that sort of gives rise to people like Adam Neely and David Bruce who can talk about that kind of stuff online. And I really enjoyed that. So thanks for watching. If you could like and subscribe, that'd be sick. And keep an eye out for any music that I release. And bye. I'd love a cup of tea, yeah. Just recording a vid.
That's wrong.